The message came on a Tuesday morning, and nobody at Earth Space Command knew what to make of it. Admiral Catherine Blake stood in the communications room, reading the strange text that had appeared on their screens. The message had traveled through space in ways that human scientists said should not be possible. Yet here it was, clear and impossible to ignore. Captain Ryan Mitchell walked up behind her and looked at the screen. He read it twice before speaking. "They want us to go where?" "To something called the Deathworld Summit," Catherine said. Her voice was calm, but her mind was racing. "It happens once every galactic cycle on a planet called Vrax Prime. Only species from the most dangerous worlds can attend." Ryan made a low sound of surprise. When humans first met other alien species 5 years ago, those aliens had tested Earth. They gave it a danger rating of Class 7. The scale went from Class 1, which meant safe and easy planets, all the way to Class 10, which meant planets so deadly that life should not exist there at all. Humans had always thought Earth was a nice place to live. Learning it was considered a dangerous death world had been quite a shock. "Who else goes to this summit?" asked Lieutenant Carla Stevens from across the room. Catherine scrolled through the message. "The Vraxians. They are the ones who host it. Then there are the Korthax, the Shen, and the Dravik. We have heard of all these species, but we have never met them face to face. This summit has been happening for over 12,000 years. Why do they want us there?" Ryan asked. He was always suspicious of things that seemed too good to be true. Catherine found that part of the message and read it out loud. "They say we have proven ourselves worthy. They mention our defense of the Kepler colony against those pirate attacks. I guess word got around. The defense of Kepler had been hard and bloody. A small human colony of 10,000 people had faced raiders from 3 different alien groups. The pirates wanted the valuable minerals humans had found there. The colony had only 2 small warships and whatever weapons the settlers could put together. They fought for 3 weeks until help arrived. The pirates lost 12 ships. The humans lost 43 people in 1 warship, but they won." "There is more to this invitation," Catherine continued. "The summit is not just for talking and making friends. There are tests. Physical challenges. They want to see what we can really do." "Tests?" Carla repeated, sounding worried. "The message says they will test our strength, our ability to survive, and how well we can adapt to new situations. They want to see what humanity is made of." Ryan smiled. "Sounds like my kind of party." Catherine did not smile back. She had been a soldier for 30 years. She knew that when something looked simple, it usually was not. But humanity had spent 5 years being treated like children by alien species that had been traveling through space for thousands of years. If this summit was their chance to prove they belonged with the tough species of the galaxy, they had to take it. "Start putting together a team," she ordered. "I want the best people we have. Scientists, soldiers, people who know how to survive in terrible places. We have 6 weeks to get ready." "How many people can we send?" Ryan asked. Catherine checked the message again. 20. They will be tested one by one and as a group. Over the next few weeks, Earth Space Command ran the biggest selection process in human history. More than 10,000 people wanted to go. The commanders had to pick just 20 who would represent all of humanity. The final team included people like Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison, a Special Forces soldier who had survived in every terrible place on Earth. Dr. Lisa Monroe was a scientist who studied alien life and had been the first to talk to 4 different species. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb could fix almost anything with just basic tools. Dr. Helen Carter was an expert on how people think and act under extreme stress. There were 16 others, each one the best at what they did. They trained in the hot deserts, the thick jungles, and the frozen ice fields. They studied everything they could learn about the aliens who would be at the summit. They pushed their bodies and minds to the limit and then pushed even harder. On the morning they were set to leave, Catherine spoke to the team one last time. They stood on the ship that would carry them to Vrax Prime. "You are about to meet species that survived on worlds far more dangerous than Earth," she said, looking each person in the eye. "These aliens have been fighting and surviving in terrible places for thousands of years longer than humans have existed. They will test you. They will push you as hard as they can. Some of them think you will fail because Earth is only a Class 7 world, and they come from Class 9 or Class 10 worlds." She stopped talking for a moment to let that sink in. Prove them wrong. The trip to Vrax Prime took 3 weeks. They had to pass through special gates in space that let them jump across huge distances. Each jump brought them deeper into parts of space that no human had ever seen before. When they finally arrived in the Vrax system, everyone stopped to look at the view on the main screen. Vrax Prime hung in space like a dark jewel. The planet was huge, almost twice the size of Earth. Its gravity was much stronger than what humans were used to. The surface was covered with volcanoes, oceans of acid, and jungles so thick they looked like solid walls. Giant storms bigger than Earth's largest hurricane swirled across its surface. "That is a Class 9 world," Marcus whispered. "Maybe even a Class 10. And something lived there," Lisa added with wonder in her voice. "Something that survived and built spaceships and traveled to the stars." As their ship got closer, they saw a massive space station. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It could hold 1,000,000 people easily. Ships of many different shapes sat in docking areas. Each ship belonged to a species that came from a Deathworld. "ESS Valiant, you may dock in Bay 17, said a voice over the radio. The translation computers made the words clear, but there was a deep growl underneath that made it obvious the speaker was not human. "Understood," the pilot replied. "Starting docking now." When the ship locked into place, Catherine stood to speak to her team one more time. "Remember what you learned in training. Watch everything carefully. Be respectful, but do not let them push you around. We are here to show them what humans can do." Jake Harrison checked his equipment one last time. He looked at Marcus. "You ready for this?" Marcus grinned. "I was born ready. My family has been surviving tough situations for generations. I have this in my blood." "That is the right attitude," Helen said, though her trained eye noticed Marcus's hands shaking just a little. Being nervous was normal. They would all feel better once things started happening. The airlock door opened and the human team stepped onto the alien station for the first time. The gravity hit them the moment they stepped off the ship. It felt heavier than Earth, though not as bad as Vrax Prime itself. The station was keeping gravity at a middle level so all the different species could handle it. Still, every step took more effort than normal. A group of aliens waited for them in the docking bay. The one in front stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its skin was covered in scales that changed color between dark purple and black. Its eyes looked like an insect's eyes, with many small parts making up the whole. When it opened its mouth to speak, they could see rows of sharp teeth that looked like they were made of crystal. "Welcome, humans," the alien said. Its voice came through a small device on its chest that translated the words. "I am Krell, Summit Master of the 47th Deathworld Summit. You have traveled a long way to be here." Catherine stepped forward to speak for her team. "Thank you for inviting us, Summit Master Krell. Humanity is honored to be here." Krell's strange eyes seemed to look at all 20 humans at once. "We will see if you deserve that honor. Come with me. The opening ceremony starts in 2 hours. You should see who you will be competing against." As Krell led them through the station, the humans got their first real look at the other alien species. In an open training area, they saw Korthax warriors practicing combat moves. The Korthax had 6 arms and legs, and they moved like hunting cats. Each one carried weapons that glowed with energy. In a corner, 2 Shen stood talking to each other. The Shen were made of living crystal and stood over 9 feet tall. Light seemed to bend and reflect through their bodies in strange ways. "How many different species are here?" Lisa asked. She could not hide how interested she was in seeing all these aliens. 12, Krell answered. "The same 12 species that have come here for the past 3,000 years. Until now, you are the 13th species to join us." "Lucky number 13, Jake said quietly, but Catherine heard him and gave him a warning look. Krell brought them to their rooms. The rooms had clearly been built for aliens, not humans. The temperature was too hot. The air felt thick and heavy. The beds were just flat stones. "Home sweet home," Marcus said as he dropped his bag on one of the stone beds. "Get comfortable while you can," Catherine told everyone. "We have 1 hour before the ceremony. Rest if you are able. Tomorrow the real challenges start." The team spread out through their rooms and tried to relax. Lisa stood by a window looking down at Vrax Prime spinning below them. Somewhere down on that violent planet they would be tested. Somewhere in this station, alien species that had survived for millions of years on the galaxy's worst worlds were waiting to see what the humans could do. She smiled to herself. Humans had something those ancient species might not expect. Humans could adapt to almost anything. They were creative and they never gave up. that had carried them from living in caves to traveling among the stars. This was going to be very interesting. 2 hours later, the humans walked into the ceremony hall. It was enormous, with a clear dome on top that showed Vrax Prime's angry atmosphere. Lightning flashed constantly across the planet's surface. The storms never stopped down there. On the dark side of the planet, they could see volcanoes erupting, glowing red against the blackness. The other alien species were already there. Now the humans could see everyone who would be competing against them. The Vraxians took up one section of the hall. 12 of them stood in neat rows. Jake watched how they moved. These were killers, top predators from a world that would have eaten humans alive. The Korthax stood across from the Vraxians. They were smaller, only about 6 feet tall, but their 6 limbs ended in sharp claws. They moved so fast it was hard to follow with human eyes. The humans had read that the Korthax homeworld had days that were only 8 hours long. The temperature changed by more than 100 degrees between day and night. The Korthax had evolved to be fast and efficient. The Shen warriors stood perfectly still like statues made of living crystal. The humans had learned that Shen could survive in the vacuum of space for up to an hour. Their homeworld had almost no atmosphere at all. They were beings of stone and crystal, shaped by a world that showed no mercy. There were other species too. The Dravik were huge, walking on 4 legs with armor-like skin and tusks that could punch through metal. The Salith looked like giant snakes and came from a world with crushing air pressure and poisonous gases. The Vexnor looked like insects and seemed to share one mind among many bodies. Then there were the humans who looked small and weak compared to everyone else. Krell moved to the center of the hall. Everyone stopped talking. "Welcome to the 47th Deathworld Summit," Krell announced. Its voice filled the entire room. "For 12,000 years, the strongest species in the galaxy have gathered here. We test ourselves. We share knowledge. We make sure that those born on Deathworlds remain strong." Krell paused and looked around at everyone. "This year we welcome a new species. The humans from Earth, a Class 7 world, have asked to join our trials. They have little experience with galactic affairs. Their world is not as dangerous as ours, but they have shown qualities that caught our attention." Jake could feel every alien in the room looking at the human team. Some looked curious. Others looked like they did not believe humans belonged here. A few looked openly hostile. "The trials begin tomorrow at sunrise," Krell continued. "As always, we will test everything that matters for those born on Deathworlds. Strength, endurance, the ability to adapt, intelligence, the instinct to survive. Those who fail will be sent home. Those who succeed will have their names written in the history of this summit." Krell stared directly at Catherine. "Humans, you should know something. In 12,000 years, no species has ever passed all the trials on their first time here. These challenges were designed by species with millions of years of evolution behind them. Do you still want to try?" Catherine walked forward. Her back was straight and her voice was strong. "Yes, we do." Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. One of the Korthax, an old warrior with metal parts replacing 3 of its limbs, made a clicking noise that the translator called laughter. "The soft humans think they can compete with us," the Korthax said loudly. "This should be fun to watch." Jake felt his jaw tighten with anger, but Catherine made a small hand signal that told him to stay quiet. Getting angry would not help anything. "Then the trials begin at sunrise," Krell declared. "All teams go back to your rooms. Tomorrow we will see what each of you is truly made of." As everyone left the hall, the humans found themselves being watched very carefully. Several alien species walked around the humans, studying them like predators looking at possible prey. A Dravik walked over to them. Its huge body made the floor shake with each step. Up close, it was even more frightening. It stood nearly 10 feet tall, and its armor-like skin looked like it could stop bullets. "I am Thornak," it said in a voice so deep it was hard to hear. "I have heard of your species. You fought off the Krell pirates at your colony." "We protected our people," Catherine answered carefully. Thornak made a sound like a steam engine. "The Krell pirates are scavengers, weak fighters. Beating them proves little. But you did it with very few weapons and ships. That shows something. Maybe you are not as weak as you look." Before Catherine could reply, one of the Shen floated over. Unlike the Dravik's heavy steps, the crystal being moved without making any sound at all. "I am Zelos," it said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Your species confuses me. Your world is not dangerous enough to make truly strong survivors. Yet you reached space travel very quickly. How did you do this? Lisa stepped forward. We had to overcome our environment by being smart and creative instead of just being physically strong. Our world gave us enough challenges that we had to learn to solve problems in new ways to survive. Zelos tilted its crystal head. Light bent through its body in complex patterns. Interesting. Creativity is a way to survive. We will see if that helps you in the trials. More aliens came over to talk and to judge the humans. Jake pulled Marcus to the side. We are the underdogs here, Jake said quietly. Every species in this room thinks we do not belong. Marcus grinned. Good. I always do better when people think I'm going to lose. Helen had been watching all the conversations carefully with her trained psychologist eyes. She joined Jake and Marcus. Notice how they are testing us right now. Every conversation and every question is them trying to figure out our weaknesses. Then we do not show them any weaknesses, Jake said. Everyone has weaknesses, Helen replied. The trick is to make sure our strengths are bigger than our weaknesses when it really matters. The human team finally made it back to their rooms. Catherine called everyone together for a meeting. What are your first thoughts? She asked. They think we are going to fail, Carla said directly. They are right to doubt us, Lisa added. These species have been doing this for 12,000 years. They know exactly how to survive. We are the new ones claiming we can do what they do. So we either prove them right or prove them wrong, Marcus said. I vote for proving them wrong, Catherine nodded. We knew this would be hard. What do we think the trials will be like? Jake had been thinking about this. Based on what Krell said, they will test everything. Physical challenges for sure. Morning came too fast. The human team gathered at the starting area where all the other alien teams were already waiting. The mood had changed from the night before. Now everyone looked serious and ready to compete. These were warriors and survivors, and the trials were about to begin. Krell stood at the center with several other Vraxians beside it. The first trial is called the Crucible, Krell announced. It will test your physical strength and your ability to adapt quickly. You will go through a course that copies environments from different death worlds. You will face extreme heat and extreme cold, high gravity and thin air, many other challenges. The course is 5 kilometers long. You must complete it as a team. All members must finish for your team to succeed. A holographic image appeared, showing what the course looked like. It was brutal. The path kept changing and was full of deadly hazards. Each team will start 5 minutes apart, Krell continued. The humans will go last because they are the newest team. We will judge you not just on how fast you finish, but on how you handle problems and how well you work together. How many teams usually finish the Crucible? Catherine asked. Krell's face changed in a way that might have been a smile. Normally about 8 out of 12 teams finish. The question is, will you be number 9? The human team watched as the other teams went through the course one by one. The Salith snakes moved smoothly across ground that would have broken human ankles. The Korthax ran with incredible speed, racing through sections before the dangers could fully activate. The Dravik just smashed through obstacles with pure strength. The Shen moved together like a single unit with perfect coordination. They make it look easy, Carla said. Their bodies evolved for this, Lisa explained. The Salith homeworld has ground that shifts and changes all the time because of earthquakes. They were born knowing how to handle unstable terrain. Jake watched each team carefully, taking notes. We cannot run as fast as the Korthax. We cannot be as strong as the Dravik. We cannot move together like the Shen. So we have to be smarter. Smarter how? Marcus asked. We adapt and we use our brains. That is what humans do best. Finally, it was their turn. Catherine checked her team one last time. 20 humans, all experts in different skills, all trained to their limit. Compared to species that evolved on far more dangerous worlds, they looked fragile and weak. Remember the plan, Catherine said. We stay together. Nobody tries to be a hero. We watch each other's backs and trust our training. Krell walked over to them. You are the last team. I will admit I am curious to see how you do. The Crucible has broken stronger species than yours. Then we will have to be clever instead of strong, Catherine said. Something that might have been respect flickered in Krell's strange eyes. Cleverness is also a kind of strength. The Crucible is waiting. The humans walked through the barrier and immediately felt the temperature jump. The first section was like being inside a volcano. The temperature was 140 degrees. Heat came up from the ground in waves they could actually see. Every breath felt like breathing fire. "Suits are working to cool us down," Marcus reported, checking his equipment. "But we are already at 60% cooling power." "Then we move fast through this part," Jake said, taking the lead. "Follow me and watch where you step." The ground was dangerous. Some spots looked solid but would collapse into vents of superheated steam. Jake moved carefully, testing each step before putting his full weight down. The method was slow but kept everyone safe. "This is nothing compared to Death Valley in summer," said Alex Cooper, trying to keep spirits up. "Death Valley does not have steam vents that can cook you alive," Helen replied, but she was smiling. Keeping morale high was important. They had gone about 500 meters when they hit their first major obstacle, a gap stretched 20 feet across, with a drop that disappeared into hot mist below. The other teams had solved this different ways. The Korthax had jumped it with their powerful legs. The Dravik had used their weight to partially collapse the edges and make a narrow bridge. "We cannot jump that far," Carla said. Marcus was already looking for a solution. "But we can build our way across." He pulled out a compact grappling tool from his pack. "We attach anchors on both sides, make a rope bridge, and we can all get across in 5 minutes." "Do it," Catherine ordered. Within minutes, Marcus had set up a crossing system. One by one, the humans went across using the rope. Their lighter weight was actually helpful this time. As the last person crossed, the environment suddenly changed. The temperature dropped like a rock. In seconds, they went from 140 degrees to -40 degrees. Frost formed instantly on their suits. The air became so thin that several people gasped for breath. "High altitude, extreme cold," Lisa reported, looking at her instruments. "This is like being on top of a Class 9 ice world mountain." "Suits are working to keep us warm," Marcus said. "But we need to keep moving to maintain body heat." This section was almost worse than the heat. The cold pulled energy away with every step. The thin air made breathing hard work. Jake kept the pace steady, knowing that stopping would be dangerous. "Talk to me, everyone," Helen called out. "Tell me if you are having trouble." "I am good," came the responses, though Jake could hear the strain in some voices. They reached another obstacle. A field of ice spikes stretched in front of them, each one sharp enough to cut through their suits. The wind howled through the spikes, making a maze of deadly crystal blades.
"How did the others get through this?" Catherine asked. Carla was checking the records. "The Shen just walked through. Their crystal bodies did not care about the ice. The Korthax climbed over the top. The Dravik smashed through." "We are not doing any of those things," Jake said.
He studied the ice field carefully. "But look, the wind is making natural paths between the spikes. If we follow the air currents, we can get through without touching anything." It was slow and careful work. Jake led the way, with each person following exactly in his footsteps. Twice someone slipped, and twice their teammates caught them before they hit the ice. It took 15 long minutes, but they got through without anyone cutting their suit. The environment changed again. Gravity increased to 1.8 times normal Earth gravity. The air became thick and humid, filled with particles that made it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Large shapes moved in the fog around them. "This is a jungle world," Lisa said. "The movement patterns suggest predator behavior." "Great," Marcus muttered. "Everything wants to kill us, even in practice." A shape jumped from the fog. Mechanical jaws snapped shut. Jake dodged to the side, letting the robot predator crash past him. It turned for another attack, but the humans had formed a defensive circle. "Non-lethal force only," Catherine ordered. They had been told these predators were expensive equipment, not real animals. Helen turned on a sound device that made high-pitched noises. The predator backed away from the sound. It circled once more, then disappeared back into the fog. "We are being hunted," Alex said. "How do we deal with this?" "We hunt back," Jake replied. "These things act like predators, which means they look for easy targets. We make ourselves look dangerous." The team moved in a tight group, making noise, showing confidence. When predators came close, they used lights, sounds, and coordinated movements to drive them away. It was basic human survival strategy. Make yourself look like too much trouble to be worth attacking. They were halfway through the jungle when they found a huge tree blocking the path. The jungle was too thick on both sides to go around. The fallen tree was too big to climb over in the heavy gravity. The Dravik pushed it aside, Carla reported. They just moved it like it weighed nothing. We are not that strong, Catherine said. She looked at her team. Anyone have ideas? Jake was looking at how the tree had fallen. Look at where the roots broke. There is a crack about 3 meters up. If we could use leverage at the right angle. We would need something to act as a fulcrum point and a long enough lever, Marcus said, immediately understanding. Within minutes, they found a strong rock formation for a fulcrum point. They used their cables and support poles to make a long lever. It took all 20 people working together, straining against the heavy gravity, but slowly the tree began to move. Keep pushing, Catherine urged. We almost have it. With one final combined effort, the tree shifted just enough to make a gap they could squeeze through. One by one, sweating and exhausted, the humans made it past. The environment changed one last time. They entered a room filled with toxic fumes where they could barely see anything. The floor was covered in liquid that ate away at their boots. Breathing required their suit filters to work at maximum power. Last section, Jake said. We are almost done. But the crucible had one final test. The liquid started rising, forcing them to move faster. At the same time, new obstacles appeared that had not been there before. They had to navigate a 3-dimensional maze, while the dangerous liquid climbed higher. Up, Catherine ordered. Use the walls, the ceiling, whatever you can find, just keep moving up and forward. The humans climbed, helping each other reach higher points. When someone could not make a jump, others made bridges with their bodies. When someone's grip failed, teammates caught them. They emerged from the crucible tired and their suits damaged, but all 20 humans made it through together. The viewing area erupted with mixed reactions. Some alien species looked impressed. Others looked shocked. The Korthax warrior who had laughed at them before was now silent and staring. Krell walked over as the humans caught their breath. Your completion time was 47 minutes and 18 seconds, the Varaxian announced. The slowest time of any team today. Jake felt disappointment hit him, but Krell kept talking. However, you are the only team to finish with 0 injuries. 0 suit failures, and 0 members needing help at the end. Every other team lost at least 1 member to the course. The Dravik lost 3 members. The Korthax lost 2. Krell's insect-like eyes studied the humans carefully. You are not the strongest or the fastest, but you are careful and you work together better than most species I have seen. This is also a kind of strength. As they were taken to the recovery area, Jake caught Marcus's eye. They had done it. They had finished the first trial using the human way, through cooperation, creativity, and refusing to give up. But this was just the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new tests. The second day started differently. Instead of gathering everyone together, the teams were split up and sent to separate testing rooms. Catherine found herself alone in a space that seemed to shift its size slightly, making her feel uncomfortable and disoriented. The trials of the mind. Krell's voice came through speakers. Deathworlds make strong bodies, but they also make sharp minds. Today you will be tested alone. Your team cannot help you. Only your own intelligence and instincts will get you through. A holographic screen appeared in front of Catherine. It showed a complex puzzle with mathematical patterns, but the number system was not the base 10 system humans used. It took her a moment to realize it was base 16, but the symbols were completely unfamiliar. She sat down and started working on the problem. All over the station, each human faced their own challenge. Jake was in a simulation where he had to make survival choices. Each decision led to new situations, creating a web of possible outcomes. One wrong choice could lead to simulated death within seconds. Lisa looked at samples of alien biology. Some were poisonous, some were helpful, some were harmless. She had to identify which was which using only basic tools. The hard part was that these alien samples used chemistry completely different from anything on Earth. Marcus stood in front of broken alien technology. He was told to fix it using only what was in the room. The technology worked on principles that seemed to violate human understanding of physics, but he treated it like any engineering problem. Find the inputs, trace the outputs, locate the failure point. Helen faced perhaps the hardest test. She was in a room with holographic aliens and had to navigate a diplomatic situation where one wrong word could cause violence. The aliens' body language and cultural signals were completely foreign. She had to read tiny expression changes and tone shifts with no baseline to work from. Hours passed. Each human struggled with their personal test, pushing their mental abilities to the limit. When they finally came back together in their shared space, everyone looked mentally drained. "How did it go?" Catherine asked. The answers varied. Some felt good about their performance. Others were not sure. Jake had made it through his simulation with only 2 simulated deaths out of 40 scenarios. Lisa had correctly identified 17 out of 20 samples. Marcus had gotten the alien device to turn on, though he was not completely sure what it actually did. "The question is how we compare to the others," Carla said. They got their answer that evening. Krell called everyone to an assembly and displayed the results on holographic screens. "The cognitive trials are complete. The results are interesting." The Vraxian brought up comparison charts. As expected, the Vexner with their hive mind achieved the highest scores in pattern recognition and math. The Shen showed superior logical thinking. The Korthax excelled at making quick decisions. Krell paused, and Catherine was sure the alien was building drama on purpose. The humans showed the most unusual pattern we have seen in 12,000 years of trials. Looking at individual scores, they were average across all categories. No single human was exceptional in any one area. Jake felt disappointment starting to settle in, but Krell was not finished. However, when we studied their decision-making patterns, we found something remarkable. The humans always chose solutions that worked adequately in multiple situations, rather than perfectly in one situation. Where other species looked for the single best answer to a specific problem, humans looked for answers that would work well enough across many different problems. The holographic display changed, showing comparison graphs. In the survival simulation, most species made perfect choices for specific dangers. They would make ideal decisions for heat management, or ideal decisions for finding resources, or ideal decisions for avoiding threats. The humans made good decisions for all categories at the same time. They were willing to be merely good at everything rather than perfect at one thing. Thornak, the Dravik who had spoken to them before, made a rumbling sound of approval. "This is the mark of a true generalist hunter. The ability to survive anywhere, not just in perfect conditions." "Exactly," Krell agreed. "And this leads us to tomorrow's trial." The gauntlet. A wave of tension went through the assembly. Even the veteran species seemed to tense up at those words. "The gauntlet is the ultimate test of Deathworld survival," Krell explained. "You will be taken to Vrax Prime itself and left to survive for 48 hours in the wilderness. You will have only basic equipment. You will face the same conditions that shaped my species over millions of years. There will be no rescue unless you are dying. Either you survive or you do not." The Vraxian looked at all the gathered species. "In the past 1,000 years, this trial has been tried 63 times. 37 species succeeded. 26 failed. Of those failures, 142 individuals never came back alive." Catherine felt her stomach drop. This was not just a test anymore. This was genuinely life-threatening. "You have tonight to prepare," Krell continued. "Tomorrow at dawn, shuttles will take you to different regions of Vrax Prime. You will be watched but not helped. Trust your instincts, trust your training, and trust whatever made you strong enough to survive your own homeworld." After the assembly, the human team had an emergency meeting. "This is serious," Helen said directly. "The other trials tested us. This one could actually kill us." "So could 100 things back on Earth," Jake replied. "Climbing mountains, diving deep in the ocean, even just driving a car. We know the risks and we deal with them carefully." "Jake is right," Catherine said. But Helen is not wrong to be worried. "This is a Class 9 death world. The air pressure alone will be a challenge." "Our suits will handle the pressure," Marcus said, though he looked concerned. "But 48 hours is a long time to keep life support running. We will need to find ways to help the suits." Lisa was already pulling up every bit of information they had about Vrax Prime's ecosystem. "The surveys say there are areas with breathable atmosphere if you can handle the pressure. There is water, though it has a lot of minerals in it, and there is life, which means there is a working food chain we might be able to use." Might use, Alex repeated. Everything on that planet evolved to survive conditions that would kill us in minutes. The plants are probably toxic. The animals definitely think we look like food. Then we do what our ancestors did, Catherine said firmly. We watch, we learn, and we adapt. Humans survived in deserts, in frozen wastelands, in jungles, and on mountains. Our advantage has always been figuring out new places and making them work for us. They spent the night preparing. Everyone checked their equipment multiple times. They reviewed everything they knew about Vrax Prime. They talked through strategies and backup plans. As the night went on, Jake stood by the window again, looking at the planet that would test them tomorrow. The storms never stopped down there. Lightning flashed constantly. He could see volcanic eruptions glowing red on the dark side. Lisa came to stand beside him. Second thoughts? Always have those, Jake admitted. But they have never stopped me yet. You know what I find strange? Lisa said. The other species evolved perfectly for their worlds. They fit their environments like a key in a lock. But humans are not perfectly adapted to Earth. We cannot survive the hottest or coldest parts without tools. We cannot breathe underwater. We are not the fastest or strongest. What is your point? Jake asked. My point is that maybe that is exactly why we will succeed tomorrow. We have always had to use tools and intelligence to survive. We are already used to being in places we are not adapted for. For us, Vrax Prime is just another challenge to figure out. Jake smiled despite his worry. I like how you think. Dawn arrived far too quickly. The human team gathered in the shuttle bay with the other species. Each group was loading onto separate shuttles that would take them to different parts of Vrax Prime. Krell did a final check of each team, making sure they understood the rules. Basic survival gear only. No weapons beyond simple tools. Emergency signals that would only be used for life-threatening injuries. One last thing, Krell said as the humans prepared to board. Vrax Prime does not care that... The shuttle lifted off, leaving them completely alone in an alien wilderness. Around them, the jungle of Vrax Prime was like nothing on Earth. Plants that looked harmless would snap shut on anything that touched them, with edges sharp enough to cut skin. The ground seemed to move in places, and they quickly learned those were colonies of small creatures that would try to eat anything, standing still too long. Stay close, watch each other, and test everything before you trust it, Jake ordered, naturally taking the lead. He used a stick to probe the ground ahead before each step. Lisa was fascinated despite the danger. Her scientist brain was recording everything. The ecosystem here is built on aggressive competition. There are no peaceful niches. Everything is fighting to survive every single moment. Sounds like downtown on a Friday night, Alex joked, but his voice was nervous. They moved slowly through the jungle. Jake tested each step with his stick. It was boring, slow work, but it kept them safe. After 2 hours of careful movement, they had covered less than half a kilometer. But they had learned important lessons about their new environment. We need water and shelter, Catherine said, checking their status. The suits can recycle moisture for a while, but we need to add more eventually. Marcus had been watching his instruments. There is a stream about 300 meters in that direction, but getting there means crossing that open area. He pointed to a clearing that looked too perfect, too empty. In nature, especially on a Deathworld, empty spaces usually meant danger. What do you think? Catherine asked Jake. He studied the clearing carefully. I think something made that clearing and keeps it that way. Probably a predator that hunts in open spaces. Only one way to find out, Lisa said. She picked up a fallen branch and threw it into the clearing. The reaction was instant and terrifying. The ground exploded upward, showing a massive creature that had been hiding just under the surface. It was easily 20 feet long, covered in armor plates, with jaws that crushed the branch into splinters. Ambush hunter, Lisa said calmly, though they were all backing away slowly. It waits for prey to cross its territory. How do we get past it? Carla asked. Marcus was thinking like an engineer. Look at how it moves. It is built for straight charges, not side-to-side movement. If we spread out and go around the edge, it cannot target all of us at once. They did exactly that, spreading out and using the jungle edge as cover. The predator watched them but did not attack again. It seemed designed to only hunt in its open killing ground. 20 careful minutes later, they had circled around to the stream. The water looked clear, but Lisa tested it first. High mineral content, but with our filters, this is drinkable. The minerals are actually things we need: calcium, magnesium, trace elements. While some of the team collected and filtered water, others worked on shelter. This was where human creativity showed its value. Using only basic tools and materials from the jungle, they built a platform shelter in a group of trees that looked stable. Marcus figured out how to distribute weight properly despite the heavy gravity. Helen identified good sight lines and escape routes. Jake positioned everything to give clear views of any approaching threats. By the time Vrax Prime's suns started to set, they had a defensible position, clean water, and a watch schedule. As darkness fell and the jungle became even more active with night sounds, the humans took turns on guard duty. "First night is always the hardest," Jake said during his watch shift. "We are tired, we are nervous, and everything here wants to know if we are edible." Helen sat with him, watching for signs of stress in the team. "Everyone is holding together better than I expected. Humans really are good at this." "At what?" "Being scared in dangerous places?" Jake asked with a slight smile. "At working together when things are bad?" "At adapting to new situations. At refusing to panic." Helen looked out at the alien darkness. "These other species evolved for their specific worlds. We evolved to handle any world we found ourselves on." The night passed slowly. Several team members reported seeing large shapes moving through the jungle around their camp. Whatever the local predators were, they seemed to be studying the strange newcomers rather than attacking immediately. Dawn on Vrax Prime came in stages. 3 different suns rose one after another, each adding its own color of light. Within minutes of the last sunrise, the temperature jumped 20 degrees and the humidity became almost unbearable, even with their suits working. "Day 2, Catherine announced. "We proved we can survive the night. Now we show we can thrive here." Lisa had been studying the local plant life all through the night when she was not on watch. "I think I found some plants that might be safe to eat, or at least not immediately poisonous. With proper preparation. Let us not test that unless we have to," Catherine said. "Our food supplies will last the full 48 hours if we are careful." But around midday, the planet had other plans. A distant rumbling caught their attention. Within minutes, the sky darkened and rain started falling. But this was not normal rain. Where the drops hit organic material, they hissed and steamed. "Acid rain," Marcus confirmed, checking readings. "pH of about 4. Our suits can handle it, but we need better overhead cover." The team worked fast, using large leaves and their improvised tarps to create better protection. The rain lasted 3 hours, turning the jungle floor into a steaming, hissing nightmare. But the humans stayed dry and safe in their improved shelter. When the rain finally stopped, they saw the jungle had changed. New plants had sprouted in the acid-enriched soil, growing at speeds that should not be possible. The ecosystem was adapting to conditions in real time. "That is incredible," Lisa said with pure scientific wonder. "The growth rate here is hundreds of times faster than anything on Earth." "It also means the herbivores will come out to eat the new plants," Jake noted. "Which means the carnivores will follow them." He was right. As the day went on, they saw more animal movement through the jungle. Nothing approached their camp directly, but the humans could feel themselves being watched and evaluated. Were they prey or were they threats? Evening brought a new problem. Chris Porter, one of the specialists, started having trouble breathing. Despite the suit's protection, something from the environment had gotten to him. "His breathing is labored and he is running a fever," Helen reported after checking him. "If this gets worse, we will have to use the emergency signal." "No," Chris said firmly, though his voice was weak. "I am not going to be the reason we fail. Give me time. My body will figure this out." It was a risky choice, but Catherine decided to wait and watch closely. They monitored Chris through the night, ready to call for help if he got worse. But slowly, his breathing started to ease. By morning, he was weak but recovering. Human immune system, Lisa said with quiet pride. We evolved on a world with thousands of different diseases. Give us time and we can adapt to almost anything. The final day on Vrax Prime tested them in ways they had not expected. A group of local predators, looking like a cross between hunting cats and birds, decided the humans might be easy prey. 6 of them coordinated their approach with frightening intelligence. They are testing us, Jake said, watching their movement patterns, looking for weaknesses. Do we have any weaknesses they can use? Marcus asked, only half joking. Compared to them, we are slower, weaker, and we do not have natural weapons. Jake paused, thinking. But we have something they do not. What? Alex asked. We can plan ahead. We can coordinate in complex ways and we have tools. Jake quickly organized the team. Hel and Marcus set up sound devices to disrupt their communication. Carla, Alex, use lights and reflective materials to confuse their vision. Lisa, Catherine, help me make obstacles. When the pack finally attacked, they found prey that fought back in strange ways. The humans had created a defensive perimeter with sharp stakes and trip lines. Noisemakers disrupted the predators' ability to coordinate. Light patterns confused their hunting instincts. Most importantly, the humans moved as one perfectly coordinated group, each person protecting the others. The pack backed off after 15 minutes. They had learned that these odd creatures were more trouble than they were worth hunting. As the 48-hour mark approached, the extraction shuttle came down through Vrax Prime's violent atmosphere. The human team stood at the pickup point, tired and dirty, but all 20 members present and alive. Krell was waiting when they got back to the station. The Vraxian looked at them with what might have been surprise. The data from all teams is being analyzed, Krell announced to everyone gathered. The gauntlet has ended. Results appeared on screens. Of 13 species that tried, 2 had completely failed and needed emergency rescue. 3 others had succeeded but with injuries that needed medical help. 8 had succeeded without needing rescue. The humans, Krell said, succeeded without any emergency calls. They are the only team where 0 members used their emergency signals. Murmurs went through the crowd. The Korthax warrior who had mocked them was now staring with clear respect. How is this possible? Thornak asked, genuinely curious. Your species is not built for such conditions. You should have struggled more than anyone. Catherine stepped forward to answer. Because we are not built for those conditions, we had to learn survival through innovation instead of evolution. Every human here. Krell faced the humans again, and this time there was no doubt about the respect in its voice. You have earned your place among the Deathworld species. Your Class 7 world may not be as harsh as ours, but it clearly created a species capable of surviving anywhere. You are welcome at all future summits, and your methods will be studied by everyone here. As the formal assembly ended, something unexpected happened. Species that had looked at humans with doubt or mockery before now approached with genuine interest. The barriers that had existed since the humans arrived seemed to melt away. Thornak was the first to approach. The massive Dravik lowered its head in a gesture the humans now understood meant respect. I misjudged your kind. I thought physical weakness meant overall weakness. I was wrong. Your minds and your ability to work together make you formidable in ways I did not expect. We appreciate that, Catherine said. We have much to learn from species like yours as well. Your strength and endurance are remarkable. The Korthax warrior who had laughed at them on the first day approached next. Up close, the humans could see the scars and cybernetic parts that marked a lifetime of combat and survival. I am Vrick, it said, its translator making the clicking sounds into words. I mocked you when you arrived. I thought you would fail within the first trial. I was foolish. Jake extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment of confusion, Vrick understood and carefully touched Jake's hand with one of its claws. No hard feelings. We are used to people underestimating us. It usually works in our favor. Zelos, the crystalline Shen, drifted over silently. Light refracted through its body in complex patterns that the humans were learning indicated curiosity. Your species fascinates me. We Shen evolved to be perfect for our world of thin air and extreme temperature. We are specialists, but you humans evolved to be adequate for many environments. I never considered that adequacy in all things could be superior to perfection in one thing. Lisa, the scientist, could not resist engaging. On Earth we have a saying, "Jack of all trades, master of none." It used to be considered an insult. But the full saying is actually, "Jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one." That is humanity's approach to survival. A wise philosophy, Zello said. I would like to learn more about your world and how it shaped such thinking. Over the following days, what had started as a competition transformed into something more valuable. The different species began sharing knowledge freely. The Vraxians taught the humans about surviving in extreme heat and pressure. The Korthax demonstrated their rapid adaptation techniques. The Shen shared their understanding of energy conservation. In return, the humans taught what they knew. Jake ran sessions on improvised tool creation and making the most of limited resources. Lisa shared Earth's biological diversity and how it had taught humans to expect the unexpected. Marcus showed engineering solutions that did not require advanced technology. Helen explained human psychology and how social cooperation amplified individual capability. One evening, the human team gathered in their quarters, finally able to relax for the first time since arriving. They had done it. They had proven themselves against species from the galaxy's harshest worlds. "Can you believe we pulled this off?" Carla said, still seeming amazed. "I never doubted us," Marcus said with a grin. "Okay, maybe I doubted us a little bit during that acid rain." "The key was working together," Helen observed. "Every single challenge we faced, we succeeded because we functioned as a unit. No individual heroics, just solid teamwork." Catherine nodded in agreement. "That is the human advantage. Other species evolved as individuals perfectly suited to their environments. We evolved as social creatures who needed each other to survive. That made all the difference." Lisa was looking at her datapad, reviewing all the information they had gathered. "The scientific knowledge we are bringing back to Earth is incredible. These species have survival techniques refined over millions of years. Combined with human adaptability, we could thrive in environments we never thought possible. Think they will invite us back next time?" Alex asked, after this performance. "Definitely," Jake replied. "We went from being the unknown newcomers everyone expected to fail, to being accepted members of this exclusive club. That is quite a turnaround." The next day brought the closing ceremony of the 47th Deathworld Summit. All 13 species gathered in the Great Hall one final time. The atmosphere was completely different from the opening ceremony. Where there had been skepticism and competition before, now there was mutual respect and camaraderie. Krell stood at the center, its massive form commanding attention. The 47th Deathworld Summit concludes today. We have seen remarkable displays of strength, endurance, and survival capability. We have also witnessed something new. The Vraxian turned to look directly at the human delegation. The humans arrived as the newest and least experienced species to ever attend these trials. They came from a world rated less hostile than any other represented here. Many of us doubted they belonged. Some openly questioned whether they would survive even the first trial. Krell paused, and the humans could feel every eye in the room on them. They proved us wrong in the best possible way. They did not succeed by being stronger than us or tougher than us. They succeeded by being smarter, more adaptable, and more unified than we expected. They have reminded us that survival takes many forms, and that the ability to adapt may be the most valuable survival trait of all. The Vraxian raised one clawed hand in a gesture that encompassed all the gathered species. "Let it be recorded in the histories of this summit that the humans of Earth, on their first attempt, completed all trials without losing a single member. This achievement is unprecedented and speaks to the quality of their species." A sound rose from the assembled aliens. It took the humans a moment to realize it was applause, or at least each species' version of showing approval and respect. The sound filled the great hall and continued for several minutes. When it finally quieted, Krell had one more announcement. The humans have also been granted something rare. They are invited to attend the next summit not as probationary members, but as full participants. They will have a voice in planning future trials and will be recognized as one of the galaxy's true Deathworld species. Catherine stood to respond, representing all of humanity. "Summit Master Krell, honored representatives of all species present, we are deeply grateful for this recognition. We came here to prove that humanity deserved a place among you. We leave having learned that we have much to teach and even more to learn. Earth may be a Class 7 world, but it produced a species that refuses to quit, refuses to leave anyone behind, and refuses to accept that any challenge is impossible. We look forward to future summits and to building lasting friendships with all of you. The ceremony concluded with a traditional exchange of gifts and knowledge. Each species presented something unique from their world. The Vraxians gave the humans a crystal that could store and display holographic data, containing information about survival techniques refined over millions of years. The Korthax presented weapons made from materials found only on their homeworld. The Shen offered samples of their unique crystalline biology for study. In return, the humans gave what they considered most valuable. They provided detailed information about Earth's incredible biological diversity, showing how one world had produced millions of different survival strategies. They shared human art, music, and literature that showed how culture and cooperation had been key to their success. And they gave something simpler but perhaps more meaningful to each species, a small sample of Earth soil, representing the world that had forged humanity. As the summit attendees began departing for their home worlds, there were genuine farewells and promises to meet again. Thornak clasped Jake's shoulder with enough force to make him stumble, which was apparently a Dravik sign of friendship. Vrick performed a Korthax ritual that involved a complex series of movements the humans did their best to copy. Zello simply said, "Until we meet again, humans of Earth. May your adaptability continue to serve you well." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, the same as the journey out. But the mood on the ship was completely different. Where they had traveled to Vrax Prime with nervous anticipation, they returned home with confidence and pride. During the long journey, the team compiled detailed reports of everything they had learned. Catherine wrote the official account that would be presented to Earth Space Command. Lisa and the other scientists prepared technical documents on alien biology and survival techniques. Jake and the other soldiers created training protocols based on what they had learned. Helen wrote psychological profiles and recommendations for future human-alien interactions. When the ESS Valiant finally entered Earth's solar system, they found a welcome waiting for them. News of their success had traveled faster than their ship. Earth's entire space fleet had assembled to greet them. As they approached Earth orbit, communications channels flooded with messages of congratulations. Admiral Catherine Blake stood on the bridge, looking at her home planet through the view screen. 3 weeks ago, she had left Earth wondering if humanity would prove itself worthy. Now she was returning with proof that humans belonged among